I'd like to say a
So
big
very good.
welcome to a lot of new names in the chat that seem to be
Oh,
suspiciously flag waving for Russia. It's
oh,
it seems very authentic and organic that they've all found themselves on our show
interesting.
tonight.
Interesting.
Welcome, or um, no, I was going to say Dos Vidania. It's too early for that unless they're going to duck out now.
Yes, it's very interesting. You made the point before about it seems the narrative is that Russia is winning. There is I feel like in the media there's always a lot of influence. There's a lot of attention. I don't know, there was a word. Around the Ukraine side of things and sort of the Ukrainian casualties and how the territory. And I don't know if that's just because they've invaded Ukraine as opposed to the other way around, but
Mm,
I do wonder if the narrative does spin that way because we don't, with the regime in Russia, you don't have those independent journalists and you don't really have people on the ground to like at the very beginning we did have a wee bit of that where people were like showing what's the feeling in Russia, but we definitely haven't had a whole lot of that in the mainstream media as of late.
mm.
So I do wonder if that sort of yeah sort of focuses on that narrative or continues the narrative that Russia are on the winning side, I guess.
I I think if I could put it in a nutshell, Russia is not winning this, but also neither is Ukraine.
Yeah.
Russia has a huge manpower advantage. Ukraine is having real trouble um, keeping people at the front. I saw something that was talking about the average age of a lot of the Ukrainians fighting, and it is my age. That a lot of the younger Ukrainians got out while the going was good, and some of them have come back and some of them haven't. Um, Russia is having moderate difficulty fulfilling their troop needs, but they're going to very poor and isolated parts of their country. They're certainly not pulling from the more affluent. They're not kids from Moscow that are getting drafted and sent to the front. They're from the Far East, um, where a relatively small amount of money makes a big difference. So if you're going to sign a military contract, cool, your family gets provided for, perhaps. Um, but yeah, there are no Russian publicly available loss figures or that sort of thing. Um, there doesn't seem to be any real attempt to recover even bodies from assaults that haven't worked. And they're running into just a truism of war that it is easier to defend than attack. And the rough math on that is a defender will inflict casualties at an almost 2 or 3 to 1 ratio on an attacking force. And so all Ukraine is doing is trying to hold as long as it can and occasionally do some pretty spectacular operations at hitting, like Dr. Patman was talking about, oil storage facilities, airfields for bombers, really just asymmetrical targets, and they're hitting like what I would call valid military targets. Whereas what Russia seems to be doing is bombarding cities. And those are two very different objectives. You have, I guess, this has woken up Europe as well. For many, many years, they were happy to cruise on the amount of American equipment or bases that were still in Europe. They didn't have to manufacture a lot of artillery rounds because when are we ever going to need them? The French have spun up 4 different ammunition plants that they had in mothballs since the end of Cold War. Rheinmetall, one of the big German arms manufacturers, is talking about building a factory in Western Ukraine because they see an opportunity there. So the longer Ukraine can just hold and not collapse means there is more likely help coming for them to help them resist Russia, then Russia is going to get somehow a big pledge of support and they can go on a more effective offensive. It's just not going to happen. But I think Russia is in that position that if they give up, there's a massive loss of face. There's the fact that their economy won't be able to sustain it. And the fact that Putin won't be able to go to his people and go, yeah, this was absolutely a win. We did everything that we wanted to do, because he doesn't. I don't think it's so much that Russia is looking at Estonia, Lithuania, Finland, all of that sort of thing. I actually think they're looking at the southern part of Ukraine, because they want all that Donbass, Crimea, Azov area. But they also have a little parcel of land that they're interested in on the western border of Ukraine called Transnistria. And if they join those two areas, like you go down Odessa and you just have that whole Black Sea coast, I think that's what Russia wants. And if they get the Donbass, the areas that they're asking for here, they rest, they rearm, they re-equip, they go again. And that might be in 5 or 10 years' time if they get what they want. But at the end of the day, no one knows, because this is getting marionetted by a man whose one focus here is Obama got a Nobel Peace Prize, and that means I need one too. He's not invested in this. He's not coming at it from a point of view of like, hey, we need to finish this war, or it potentially ends up with American military lives dying in Europe again, which I think would be an honest appraisal of what could happen here. It is, I have a hole in my shelf for the Nobel Peace Prize I think I deserve.
Yeah. And the achievement of, hey, I did it with one of the world's biggest dictators, the modern day dictator. Yeah, no, it's absolutely all about Trump. It always has been. I think all of this showboating now is all about Trump. And what you were saying about the leaders all gassing him up, that was the funniest thing of just like, just before we start, thanks Trump for setting this up. I really appreciate it. Now let me say what I wanted to say. I feel so bad that they have to do that, but it's got to feel like such shit to do that to someone like Trump. But I guess you gotta play the game.
That's always been an aspect of diplomacy. I think what I'm getting a kick out of is how obvious and how heavy-handed and blunt that it has to be for it to soothe that man.
Yes, it reminded me a lot of the Moana Winston Peters. Yeah, the Moana Winston Peters, exactly the same sentiment of just like, no, I'm praising you. And then it was back to the hard questions. Oh, no, I'm it's just like, oh my God, you have to coddle the man just to get anywhere.